المرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم. This is the fourth lecture on the graduation project course. In this lecture we are going to give you the main points in that you need to include in the research proposal. So we are going to explain what is to be included in the proposal, and we'll go through the whole points that you have to cover in your first draft and in the final draft, inshallah, when you finish when you make the amendments that are recommended. So the first thing you start with is the title. So we take for granted that you have finished the title now. And then the table of contents, as you remember. The next step to take after the table of contents and after the title is the abstract. The abstract is usually it's 1 or 2 paragraphs. It doesn't have to be longer than that. It's from 250 to 500 words, or let's say 350 words maximum. So it's a research, it's a summary of the research proposal. So it gives you an outline of the proposal. So we should know what is the idea that you are going to cover in this research, or you have covered in this proposal, and what will your research will involve. What is it that you are going to investigate? What are the research questions and hypotheses that you are going to cover in this proposal, and you are going to investigate? What methods to include? For example, questionnaires, interviews, observations, surveys, experiments, whatever. So your abstract should tell us briefly what your research proposal is about. And the last thing is that you tell us about the analysis of the data. So briefly, 5 points you need to cover in the abstract. Otherwise, your abstract is not going to be full. It's going to be missing some essential information from it. So what you need to include is that you give us a summary of your study. You say in 250 or 350 words or so that my proposal is going to be about this and that. I'm going to investigate this X problem, and I'm going to, for example, use these methods to investigate this problem, and this is my research question, and this is what I'm going to and this is how I'm going to analyze the data that I have in my study. So otherwise, if you don't have these things, your proposal is going to be lacking, as I said, the essential elements in it. So you've got to have them all present in your abstract. We need to know what the main points that you need to keep in mind when writing your abstract. So there are so many, but I have just listed the main important points. The abstract will only be always read along with the title, which means that I do not repeat or rephrase the title. What is the point again about the abstract? What is the point? Why do we have the abstract? I have the abstract because I need to give my readers an idea about the whole study. I save their time. If you don't want to read the whole document, you can just read few lines here at the beginning of my paper or at the beginning of my proposal, and I will be able to tell you what is inside that proposal. It could be 250, 2 pages, 20, 200, 400 pages or more, sometimes if it is a PhD dissertation. So the abstract is really helpful to your readers. It's going to give them a hint or an idea, a hint of about your research proposal, and it will likely be read without the rest of the document, so you don't have to read it. However, so make it complete enough to stand on its own. So I need to give the readers full idea, though it is brief, but it is complete and enough. It is complete enough to stand on its own. And my readers, they expect me to summarize the study in the abstract, so I just give them the summary. And you need to emphasize the different points of your study proportion to the emphasis they receive in the body of the document. So you order the points in the abstract according to the way you presented them, in the actual document. Here we are saying that you do not need to refer in the abstract to information that is in the document. What do we mean? That is not in the document. What we mean by this is that don't bring something from outside. If you have it here, if you have it in your proposal, if you have it in your document, please put it at the beginning. If you do not, don't mislead your readers. Please, if you have something, put it. You don't have anything to talk about what you have. Don't just say, well, I want to write 250 words, and well, I ran out of words, so I only have maybe 100 words or so. It is enough sometimes, but it has to be full. So you say, well, I'm going to write something which is not there. No, you cannot. Avoid using the first person, I and we, in case of the plural. In addition, whenever possible, choose active verbs instead of passive ones. Example, use the study tested instead of it was tested by the study, or I tested in the study, which is much better here. So the study tested, you need to say this, you need to express it in the active voice, and you need to in this way you need not to say it was tested or I tested, because we said that you need to avoid using the first person. Also, you need to avoid as much as possible the use of trade names, acronyms, abbreviations, symbols in your abstract. Why? Because it's an abstract. You didn't need to give abbreviations here and there between the lines and say, well, this is for example the abbreviation of LAD, for example, language acquisition device. No, you don't need to put it in the abstract, though your readers may know, some of them know what is this abbreviation is about, but you should not put abbreviations in the abstract or acronyms. Do not also procrastinate. It is best to write the abstract immediately after you finish your proposal, your project, while the ideas are still fresh in your mind. So what we mean by procrastination is that you delay things. Say, well, oh, okay, yeah, I want to do it later on. Well, it's not now. I'm busy. No, because you've got the ideas in your mind and they are still fresh. Please jot down what you have now about your proposal, and then edit it later on. No problem. You can edit it. You can come back to it and change it if you like. So this is briefly what we mean by the abstract. We'll move to the second section, or to the next section in the proposal, which is the introduction. Here you provide the reader with an overview, background information about the topic. But what is an introduction? What is an introduction in general? It is the opening paragraph or paragraphs of an essay or research paper. It gives a brief idea about the research question. So these have to be present in your research, in the introduction. The significance of research, number 2. The methodology used in and the main idea of the research. 3. It should be designed in an attractive manner in order to grab the reader's attention. So 3 things have to be present in your introduction, which is the opening paragraph or paragraphs of your research. It should give a brief idea about the research question. What is it that I'm going to investigate? And what's my question? So you remind the reader. You are always keeping your readers on track. You don't want them to get lost in the middle and say, oh, all right, okay, I want to go back and see what his question is about. No, you tell them here about the points that you are going to cover in your project or in your research proposal. The significance of research, which is number 2, and the methodology, which is going to be used in the study. This is the introduction, the definition of the introduction. And the introduction is important. It is important to have an introduction in your proposal. But why? The purpose is to prepare the reader for the body of writing that comes after it. It is giving them a brief idea about the research, the research topic, and what is it about, what are the main points that are going to be covered here. Though it is not enough, I mean, in terms of handling all the issues, you cannot have all the issues, because each part is going to be different. I mean, like for example, you cannot have limitations in the introduction, for example. So the introduction catches the reader's attention, making them want to read more. I want to read more about this research. As a researcher, what I should do, you should know that what you are writing about and why you are writing it. What is it that I'm writing about here? What is the problem that I want to investigate? And why I'm interested in it, and why I want to research it. This is really important to be present in your introduction. But unless you inform your readers of your topic in the introduction, they will feel lost, as I said, and may judge your research to be unclear. So you have to be clear from the beginning what my research is going to include in the introduction. The introduction also announces the subject matter and tone of your essay. Is it humorous? Is it serious, critical, whatever? So you give your readers a sense of what your work is going to be like, of what your proposal is going to be like in the introduction. They can know, or they can tell what is it about from the introduction. So in order to let them read the whole part, which is the introduction here, you need to grab their attentions. The reader's attention has to be grabbed. So the first sentence or sentences in the introduction of your research proposal should be attractive enough to capture the reader's attention. You can start with an introduction with a quotation or thought-provoking ideas about the subject. So here you can use quotations, but in the abstract, no, you cannot. So notice the difference here. This raises the level of curiosity in the readers, and they will continue reading your research. As soon as you put something attractive in your introduction, you put quotation, you give them something that will make them interested in reading your research, they will continue reading it, and they will be curious about your study. What you need to do in order to have a good introduction, you need to clarify the center idea of your the introduction. What does actually, it clarifies the central idea of your research. So it should be written in a way that is clearly, or that it clearly depicts the central idea of the paper. What is the paper is about? What is it that it includes? What is it that it focuses on? After reading your introduction, readers should not have any doubt about the main idea of your research question or research topic. So when they finish, they say, okay, yes, I can now tell what this research is about. I can understand what this researcher is investigating, just from these two parts at the beginning, which are the abstract and the introduction. Your readers will know what is it that you are going to do and what is it that you are going to cover in this piece of research or in your research proposal. There are some mistakes that you need to avoid when writing the introduction. Some actually young researchers, they fail to address the good points in research in the research when writing the research proposal. So we need you to be aware of them and to avoid them when writing your proposals. So the introduction should not introduce a detailed background about of the topic. However, it should give a brief description of the research question, the importance of the study, and the methodology. So research question, methodology, and importance of the study or significance of the study. So it's not the whole thing. You still have something to say more in the coming sections that you are going to talk about. So your study has not finished here. You are going to say something. You are going to say more about your topic. You are going to investigate it. You are going to use the tools. You are going to say more about the research methodology, the limitations, the ethical considerations, so on and so forth. So the introduction should not give a detailed background about or of the topic, about your topic. The introduction should also mention the significance of the topic in order to grab the attention of the readers. They should know why it is important to you and what made you interested in doing this study. Why is it important to you? So we need to know as readers what is the thing or what are the things that made you interested in doing this piece of research. So the introductory paragraphs should not be too long. Half-page paragraph or a little more than that can be enough. So it's not that long. We don't want the introduction to be long. Maybe 2 paragraphs are going to be enough. Something like maybe 300 words to 500 words is going to be, I think, enough for us here. Or less than that. Sometimes you can do this. You can say what you want in a few words. Also, make sure that your introduction introduces the thesis statement that we have asked you to write at the beginning of this course. We asked you to write a thesis statement, which is a paragraph describing you, your research and the importance of research, why you are doing it, what is the significance, what is it that you are going to investigate. So don't begin with an apology or complaint. Such statements as, it's difficult to find much information on this topic, and this controversy is hard to understand. So you shouldn't do this, because your readers are going to feel that you are not doing the research in the way it should be done. So it's difficult to find much information. We already know about this. We already know that one research is not going to cover the whole thing. We know that you are just taking a slice of the data that you have, for example, and you are not going to cover. Sometimes you collect the data, even your data, you cannot analyze them, and you cannot actually report them later on in your study, even if it is in a large piece of research, for example, in a PhD dissertation. You cannot sometimes cover the whole thing and analyze it because of time constraints. So don't assume that your audience already know your topic or your subject matter. Identify the research question, even though you know your instructor, supervisor knows what you are writing about. So you tell them as if they are just reading it for the first time. So don't assume that they know it. You are writing for the public here. You are writing for the people, I mean, even your supervisors. They need to know your question. They need to know what is it that you are going to focus on. So you should avoid also using standard dictionary definitions in the introduction. Don't use definitions which are found in the dictionaries. The part which comes after the introduction is the biggest part of research, if I can describe it in this way. It is the biggest one, which is the literature review. It is the part where it's not literature as some students, by the way, they ask me sometimes, literature, yes, the literature means that novels, drama, poetry, short stories. No, this is not literature. What we mean here in research, literature, it means the works you consulted in order to understand and investigate your research problem. What is it that you have read? What is it that you have seen? And we want you to report it here, to put it in your research and tell us about it. I've seen this, I've seen that, I've read about this book, and this is the reference. You need to cite everything, every part which is not yours. If it is yours, that's fine. But if it is not yours, you have to cite it. And by the way, this is the place where you have other people's work, where you report about their works. You put it here, you say somebody has done that, somebody has done that, and then you say my study is going to be like this, or my study is going to be different because of blah blah blah. So the literature review is a critical look at the existing research that is significant to the work that you are carrying out. Some people think that it is a summary. This is not true. It's not a summary. Though you are summarizing other people's work, you are not just making a summary. You are making a summary and you are trying to evaluate their works. Although you need to summarize the relevant literature, it is vital that you evaluate this work, show the relationships between different work, and show how it relates to your work. And this is, by the way, important, very, very important. You need to know that in the literature, after you finish listing other people's work, after you finish summarizing their work, you say, well, this is my study, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is how my study is different from their work, from what they have done, from their studies. This is where my study places itself in the literature. This is the gap. If you have heard about the word gap, where is the gap in literature? So this is the gap that you are going to fill, as if there is a gap and your study is going to fill that gap. You've read about that person, you've read about that. At least we want you, and I think, to have, as we suggested in the guide, we want you at least to have 2 to 4 quotes or brief summaries of what the research said about the topic that you are going to research. So what is the purpose of the literature review? A literature review situates your topic in relation to previous research and eliminates a spot for you, for your research. It accomplishes several goals. So this is the previous research, this is what the people before me have done, and this is what I'm going to do. You do this in the literature review, otherwise you are not going to get the full mark, ya shabab. Please, I'm trying to be very clear with you from now. You've got to have this, otherwise you are not going to have the full mark. So your your literature review should provide, or it provides background for your topic using previous research. It shows you are familiar with previous or relevant research. It evaluates the depth and breadth of research in regards to your topic. It determines remaining questions or aspects of your topic in need of research. So here, when I read the literature review, I can tell, well, oh, you have a good background about the topic. You've listed, mashallah, a number of references here, a number of people. These references, by the way, have to be relevant. You shouldn't just list any people's work and you say, well, this is literature review, this is what I have read about it. No, it has to be relevant to your investigation. What is it that you are going to investigate? Okay, I need to go and look for the suitable materials, or the materials that are going to be relevant to my research. This will show your supervisor that you are familiar with the research, that you have read something about your study. And the purpose here of the literature review is to determine the remaining questions or aspects of your topic in need of research. This is the end of this lecture. I hope that this lecture has given you essential information about the proposal and what is it about. And inshallah, in the next lecture, which is going to be lecture 5, we are going to cover the second part of the research proposal. I have divided them into 2 parts because it's going to be too long for me to handle it in one lecture. So I decided to put them in 2 separate lectures. Thanks for listening.